All right, everybody, welcome to Taurus 2026. We are at the round table again, and the sign that we're getting ready to explore is the archetype of Taurus. Let's find out about Taurus. We don't know what it's about yet, so here we go. Let's rock and roll. First thing first, it is an earth sign, and all the earth signs have to do with those core foundations of health, money, work, and matter. Earth is the material world, so all of those things that materialize and manifest, those are all earthy domains. Taurus is a part of that for sure. In fact, it's one of the earthiest of the earth signs, I would joke. But the health is all about our physical body, the constitution of it. Money is that symbol that we exchange that symbolizes the energy and the currency that we accumulate, that we then pass forth and back and forth for commerce. Work is the stuff, the toil that we do in the ground on, here, boots on the ground on the earth. And then just everything related to matter. So the physical end products of our energetic world are all earth based, and Taurus is in that zone. The modality is fixed. Things that are fixed are the signs that are in the middle of the season, and Taurus is in the middle of spring. So you can think about that in the middle as kind of holding on. It's got this holding, sustaining quality. It's amassing, it's fortifying, it's kind of, holding everything together like glue. It is the heart of spring in a sense. It's the meat, the core of spring. And fixed signs have something to do with security. So if we kind of combine that idea of earthy security, it's that physical, material, voluptuous kind of amassment of physical, rock solid, grounded, all of those earthy components. In fact, those first three signs are just a joke, fire, very cardinal. Aries is one of the most fiery of the fire signs. Taurus is one of the most earthy of the earthy signs. And then air with Gemini is one of the most airy of the air signs. For water, I'd probably say Pisces is the most watery of them, more so than Cancer, but hey, we can split hairs later. As far as the glyphs and the symbols go, so here is a little picture of what the symbol looks like when somebody is shorthanding, just drawing out Taurus. And then you see the constellation, and what it's supposed to comprise is the bull. Taurus is the bull. And so we see the bull's head. The crescent over the circle is two moon symbols in a sense. We've got our full moon and our kind of crescent moon, and it's not going to look exactly, but it is generally related to that. Moon cycles, the fertile crescent of manifestation is one way to think about that earthiness. We also can notice that it's all curved signs. Um, Sometimes you can think about a bull being like, it's got a masculine connotation of like ramming its, against the little sheep with the red color that makes the bull see red. But there is something about Taurus and its earthy connotation that is very feminine. As we'll see when we get to the planets in a second, but there's a feminine to all of the curved angles and the curvature of that symbology. With the bull, there are some ties in through our mythos with the golden idol of materiality, the golden idol bull from like, Bible lore, which when what was it when Moses came down and the new covenant or whatnot, and he blew the ram's horn, and we through the procession of the equinoxes went from Taurus to Aries because that moves backwards. It's kind of like saying that the era of material worship and worshiping the earth was over in a sense. But everything has its cycle and its seasons, and there is a season for that Taurus materiality that is part of it. I also put in here Ferdinand the Bull. That's a fictional character that you think about just being kind of a sweet kind of bull that is Ferdinand. I think about stopping and smelling the flowers, the bull that's smelling the flowers, and all of those sensual pleasures. The world are very earthy, very Taurus. So that idea of being in touch with our physical, earthy, material, sensual nature. There's also a quality to the bull that is dependably strong and doesn't back down. And that really ties in with the idea of the bull that charges when it sees red, so to speak. Which we can, that's kind of drawing in a sense of what we think of with the planet Mars there. So thinking about the glyphs and symbols, it is that bull and all of these archetypes that we've discussed that go with that. Planets. Let's play with that because it'll bring back some of those things. So the classical ruler for Taurus is Venus. And Venus is very much in Taurus at home as the material girl. It is all about materiality. When we talk about Venus, you talk about love and money. And in Taurus, it's really that money dimension because it's that we accumulate from our work that we amass that is related to our resources. The resources we develop and accumulate is what she symbolizes. And there's an attraction with Venus. It is like the magnet that draws in. So Taurus is that energy that pulls to it more of the material resources and sensual pleasures that it finds pleasurable and enjoyable. So that's the classic Venusian sense that goes along with Taurus. Now, the planet that rules the opposite sign over there, Scorpio, is Mars. And so Mars is considered to be in detriment in Taurus because if Venus is very well situated to enjoy the sensual pleasures of materiality, Mars can be a little bullheaded about it. And it really, Mars as the red planet is quite symbolic of that, seeing red, the bull seeing red, the red sheet that makes it charge. Um, it can be that's like the stubborn side of Taurus that could charge forward. And once it gets going, you can't get it to stop. Taurus is a sign that in some ways is very slow to anger, and it's kind of just like, leave it alone, do its own thing. But when Mars is there, it's got a more determined charge about things. And that determined charge is kind of not a fit with the fixed, relaxed quality of Taurus. Taurus likes to just relax and smell the roses. So when it's got this drive and this passion of Mars, which all the planets have their good and the light and shadow qualities that they're going to express, but it kind of keeps the charge going in Taurus in a way that is just in some way not exactly the home fit for its natural nature, which is much more Venusian, pleasurable, etc. It's more likely to maybe have confrontation, and those material realms can be combative in some way when Mars is the fit at that point. A sign that is or I'm sorry, a planet that is exalted in the sign or raised up is the moon. And you can kind of see from the glyph of the moon that if we turned it on its side, it's going to look a little like that classic Taurus symbol, which you can kind of see here in the head of Mercury with it's got its own little crescent on top of the circle. But so this crescent is the moon and is another feminine connotation that does exceedingly well in Taurus. When the moon is in Taurus, there is a sense of needing and being more comfortably in touch and attuned with the physical materiality of things. And it is a sense of being at home in the earth realm. So the moon and its sense of needing material pleasures and the things that feed it are very physically manifest, tangibly, concretely at hand when moon is there. So it's like, moon and materiality really get together well in Taurus so that the material world is this incubating home for that material pleasure. So it really draws in a sense of at home again with the material world, with all of the earthy practical things. It's going to hold on to them even more so because the moon is one of these planets that has a holding together. It represents ties to the recent past. So there's a sense of, a very steadiness. It steadies the moon in some respect, and it is exalted there. The planet that falls is the one that is exalted opposite, and that is Uranus. And it's easy to see why Uranus is kind of an odd fit when it comes. Oh, and you know what? I'm just noticing Mercury should have been deleted from this slide. It is not in the mix at all. But it was there for, I guess it was there so that we could um, talk about how it has that little fertile crescent on top. But Uranus, back to Uranus. Uranus falls in this sign because Uranus is that electric wild child. It's about spontaneity, doing things different, erratic, outside the box, electric, liberating, freeing. That's nothing that has anything to do with Taurus. Taurus is holding things together. Taurus, we would vote most likely to want to do things the same way that it's used to. It's going to eat the same thing that it knows that it likes. It's going to go to the same places that it knows it enjoys. So when we have this agent of novelty and things that are new and different in the mix, that's very foreign. It's disruptive, which Taurus does not like. It likes to keep things steady, stable, the same, dependable, reliable, all of that. So often Uranus in Taurus, we'd associate with things such as quick disruptive changes, especially when it comes to ecology, economy, and the environment. And we have just been going through a long period with Uranus in Taurus. So Earth changes when it comes to earthquakes, volcanoes, weird weather patterns. Also, the volatility of the economic system, our ecology changing, things that we're used to or would like to be steady and stable, and you can depend on it to be the same and predictable. Uranus is like, nope, zap, different, all that kind of stuff. And so for that reason, that planet that wants that spark of novelty, it's going to fit very well in Taurus. It's considered to fall. It's like Taurus wants to hold it and make it do the same thing, and Uranus wants to keep trying something different. So that is why we associate it as a fall. Esoteric and hierarchical are an interesting level together here because they are both ruled by the planet Vulcan. And if you're wondering what's the planet Vulcan, you're not alone because when you look in the solar system, there is no planet Vulcan. But in esoteric astrology, there is a hypothetical planet that is somewhere between the sun and I believe Mercury. And it's said to be invisible or non-physical at this particular dimension or frequency of reality, so you might not see it or whatnot, but it has an energetic presence. And when the soul is attuned to those finer, higher dimensions, Vulcan exists. Vulcan in mythology is going to tie us in with Hephaestus, which is the craftsman of the gods. And there is, just thinking back to Venus, our material world, the craftsmanship of the physical world is part of its sensual, pleasurable, enjoyable facets. The idea that we can take raw, crude resources and refine them into clothing that feels good and looks pretty, and jewelry. We can take the metals and shape them and craft them. All of this is the beauty element of its ruler, Venus, that takes the physical and materiality and molds it into an expression of divinity. Well, Vulcan is very much in that, and it's kind of fun to think about how Vulcan and Aphrodite or Venus were married in mythology, the beauty and the inspiration of the muse and the sculpture that it kind of molds out of it through the craftsmanship. Esoterically, Vulcan is crafting the soul. And so there is a quality of galvanizing and or vulcanizing, pressurizing the physical world so that it expresses the soul qualities. It's like it's expressing heaven through earth. So the same way that I can take like a brick of raw clay that's solid like a rock, and I can mold it or carve it and chisel it into a beautiful sculpture, that is Aphrodite's, kiss of taking something rude and crude and making it a symbol of beauty. Vulcan is doing that at a spiritual soul level. It is taking the physical manifest experience of a person and crafting it through soul qualities on the inside so that it is expressing divine qualities to shine through, turning your raw, crude personality life into a beautiful sculpture of soul expression. And that is happening with Vulcan at the esoteric level, which applies to our individualized soul journey that rises above the mundane levels. And then also the hierarchical level is like a level of astrology that's looking at almost like what the planets in the solar system are learning, or how that attunement is bigger than any of us little people down here on the ground, so to speak. So in that bigger picture, the agent of Vulcan is crafting the entire material plane into this divine expression of beauty. Everything physical is representing something spiritual on the inside. So that when people say things like, ooh, the material world is evil and the spiritual world is good, or money is the root of all evil, missing the mark, missing the point, because that vulcanization is saying that actually all of those physical, material, crude, primordial realms are in some way paradoxically part of and capable of expressing the highest refined sophistication of those expressions. And so this hypothetical planet is often not considered to be in play until someone is on their soul journey. So if you're still wrapped up in the material, mundane world, cool. Venus is there for you to help you enjoy the pretty things. And then as you become more attuned to the soul dimensions, Vulcan is there to help you actually craft and forge something that is like a tool in a more spiritual context. So that's how our planets play in, or the main planets that have a specific ruler, detriment, exalted in Taurus. Thinking about the houses, since Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac, it's going to correspond with the second house. And we can think about houses like domains of life, and everybody has all 12 domains in some place. Well, the second domain of life in Taurus's jurisdiction, it relates to values. I say all the time, it is the value bank, the bank of our values, that which you find valuable you spend your money on or you save your money for, and you purchase and you have. It's your possessions. It's also those things that we value are qualities that we feel like are worthwhile for us to develop in ourselves. If we value it, we're like, cool, I'll work at it. I'll develop it. I'll get better. I'll amass and accumulate and fortify that quality in myself. So it's the values that we have and all of the symbols that represent that, the resources, the money, the possessions. We've talked about some of these other things, jewelry, clothing, massage. These are all sensual qualities. Also put banks, this reservoir of money, the economic system. These are all physical, concrete, manifest, tangible kind of representations of value and resources and things that have a sensual physical component that often is uh, aligned with that Taurus energy. It's also going to be our taste and our appetite, that which we value. You have a taste for. Um, and Taurus is no stranger to the good food, even though we technically would go two doors down to Cancer to look at food. Food has a sensual quality of pleasure. And so the idea of that which we have a taste for, and that can be literal with real food or again, metaphoric, the experiences that are to your taste or liking, your appetite. And so that which we have an appetite for, we're usually willing to, that might be the type of food that we grow, so to speak. That which you have a taste for are the experiences that you gravitate to. Our foundations. I joke kind of like I'm not really car friendly, but what's that car brand? Maybe it's Ford that's like, or no, it's Chevy, like a rock. That's Taurus. And so it's that foundation of like a platform and something that you can stand on, you can count on, you can depend on that that foundation of your resources, what you have. It's in the bank, so to speak. You've banked it. That energy. The money, the bank, that's all Taurus, that's all second house. That which one desires to hold, accumulate, and develop. So it's related to all these themes. And you're going to hear, the deeper we go into this, you're going to hear some of the same things because Taurus isn't changing. It is all of these things, and we just think about them in different ways. Craftsmen, any kind of manufacturing, when you think of factories that manufacture or take things, once you have the idea of something and then you are turning it into a physical product, the physical manifestation of something, putting it together, all the pieces coming together to develop and amass something, manufacture, car, second house. Finance, all the realms of finance and dealing with money and resources, that is part of it, as is working with the hands. And that's going to go with things like massage, which has a sensual pleasure and all of that component, but also the idea of working with our hands when it comes to craftsmanship, like um, building houses, plumbing, gardening, and agriculture, all the hands-on work of life that are involving the physical body, that's all under this second house Taurus jurisdiction. So, second house, second sign, second archetype around the wheel. A little bit more extending that keyword soup. Some of these we've already heard, but just to give you a round robin of keywords that when you hear, it triggers this is the Taurus archetype. Values, 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 values. It is all about our values that we own, that sense of ownership, that which you own, you have, you development. You develop things that are skills, your resources, again, solid. It is I would say that Taurus, the other earth signs have a solidarity too, but they're mutable and cardinal. So there's a lot more movement there. And the least movable, I joke that Taurus is one of the most stubborn signs in the sense that if it doesn't value something, it doesn't like it, you can't make it bud. It is immovable. If you think about from the like Marvel X-Men, I think of the character the Blob because he's immovable. Nothing moves the Blob. So it's got this quality of solidarity and stubborn non-budging. The other stubborn sign is Aries. Aries is stubborn in the sense of like if you tell it, hey, you can't do that, it's going to. Aries is going to take action no matter what. Taurus is going to hold things solid no matter what. It is steady and stable. Again, you can count on it, depend on it, rely on it. It's dependable. It's not wavering. It's not a mutable sign that's moving all over and changing. It's not a cardinal sign that's got to be getting somewhere. It's fixed. It's holding. And it's earth, which when we think if you put a rock on the table, it's not going anywhere. It's going to stand there and stabilize in the shape of that rock. That is totally it. Immovable. It can't be budged. Sensual, this physical world and all of the sensate qualities, touch, taste, your hearing, all of our five senses, the way that we interface with the material world, that is Taurus. Taurus is the physical body sensing, feeling, palpably interacting with a tangible environment through the senses. So it is very akin to the sensuality of life, which is also the materiality of life and the physicality of life. All things that are physical, material, and sensual pleasures that it has ownership of, that it enjoys and values. That's all in that Taurus realm. It's also kind of, that sensual enjoyment does go into our sexual nature, even though we think about sex filing under Scorpio, which it does, and we'll talk about there. But since they are opposite, and we'll talk about that relationship later, Taurus enjoys the physical stimulation of the body as well. But that central nature, it's like it's your own body. It's the physical sensation of what feels good to you and your touch through massage, etc. Whereas you're involving an other when you get into Scorpio, and that's where you have more of an intercourse together with another. But Taurus understands and appreciates that sensuality as well. Manifestation, a sign that is like the manifestation king or queen would be Taurus in the sense of that which it values and enjoys. It's going to develop, it's going to call forth, it's going to grow, it's going to make happen in a sense on the physical plane. If it has an idea or a desire, Taurus is the manifestation station. Putting it together into like a sentence blurb, what is Taurus about? It is accumulating that which one finds to have worthwhile quality and appreciating it for enhanced development. And I try to embed as many words that have the flavor of the archetype in it. So we have the accumulating factor of more, growing, abundance, that is in Taurus. Worthwhile. Taurus does not want something fickle that's here 1 minute, gone the next. It's wanting stable, solid, something it can count on. I like this because it's here and it's not going anywhere. Appreciating, when you appreciate something and value it, appreciating has a quality of growing it. When you appreciate somebody, you are calling it forth more into your life. You want to accumulate more of it. So it's enhancing that development. I'm also looking at each sign as far as the time orientation to past, present, and future, and all signs have a little bit of it all. But I said that Taurus is number one in the present. Stop and smell the roses. What do I feel on my skin right now? So it's in that present moment where it is fortifying and holding on to what it enjoys. I feel like its present orientation is the strongest. If we think about the past, it's got a quality of maintaining and building on past acquisitions. Taurus does not let go very easily. It doesn't want change. So that which it already has, it wants to save it in the bank. It wants to keep it, maintain it, and then build on top of it, and then build on top of that. But it's not letting go of what it used to have. It's building on it. And so it's holding it. And then as far as its future orientation, it's using its current resources to get more in the future. So the future is like almost like somewhere far away to Taurus. It's really like right now. But it does understand like it's got its bank, its accumulation factor. And so it wants to accumulate more, but it's in a sense of what can I hold on to and holding it all together. So it's really that sense of building and holding that's important, where that present interface seems to be the most key. All right. My favorite part of these is looking at each sign and how it relates to the others, because every sign has a relationship with every other sign, depending on where they're situated at the table. And the most important place to start, I feel like, other than the core sign itself, is directly across the table, because opposite signs are complements. We hear them called oppositions and they're opposite, and like, oh no, they're different. They're butting heads. They're at war. They're not at war. They're married to each other. So they complete each other in a complementary fashion. So let's look at the difference between Taurus and Scorpio. Taurus is fixed earth, Scorpio is fixed water. So they have that fixed quality in common. They both like to hold things, but Taurus is holding on to that physical dimension, and Scorpio is holding on to a very invisible, fluid, watery dimension. They're also on what I have called the axis of values. So they are, again, both fixed and they're both yin or passive. They're not naturally just like active, although Scorpio has Mars in it. So it's penetrating. But there is a quality of kind of like holding and just kind of in a state of being. It's okay with that fixed passive quality. Um, since they are both dealing with values, Taurus is our personal resources, and Scorpio is others' resources. Scorpio is very savvy with what others have and how it's working and how those can be used. How can we bring those to the table? So, Taurus, again, what I've got, Scorpio, what others or we've got. Taurus is that sense of ownership, the possessions that I have. Scorpio is more about investments. What are the other people's valuables that you're investing in, and how you are plugging into other people's resources by investing in those. Taurus is solidification, so making things more solid, keeping them the same, keeping them on hand. And Scorpio is transformation. Scorpio is there to completely transform things. And again, we'll get into that more specifically for how that fits with a fixed sign, but it's there. It's transformation station. Whereas over here in Taurus, it's solidification. Practicality for Taurus. That's like the nuts and bolts of what makes sense in a 3D world. Boots on the ground, what's in front of my face, the things that I can see, touch, smell, hear. Again, it's that practical dimension. Scorpio is more about the psychology of things, which is an invisible realm. You can't touch psychology. The psyche is actually the soul, but we think about it with the mind. There's a connection, but the psychology is this invisible place that is not an exact science, some say. It is more of um, I don't want to say an art form, but it's got a fluidity to it. So the psychological motivations and the way that the movement in the psychology is not always especially practical. We could also pair like the idea of Taurus wanting something that's rational. It makes brick and mortar sense, but sense in a money way and in a sensuality way. We can think about Scorpio's psychology being a little bit more irrational. You can think in the psychology department how some people often have an irrational fear, like, I've never drowned in this life, but I have a fear of water, some people might say. So those irrational qualities that don't make practical sense, but they are wrapped up in the water of somebody's psychology. Sensuality, we've talked about, that which feels good. I like the taste and the touch of certain things. Whereas Scorpio's intimacy, and it's an intimacy, and the joke of like into me I see. But we get that intimacy with others. You need the reflective pool of someone else's waters to enjoy the intimacy of an other. And very much, there's ways that signs tie together, and Aries and Taurus together make a very self pair. It's very much about the self, and Libra and Scorpio are very much about others, and that the deepening of relationships, just like Taurus is an extension of self, those self qualities that we are more solidly owning. Then we have the idea of things that are foundational. Whoop, let's skip tangible. So we've got tangible, something I can hold. Scorpio, it's invisible. It's not something you can exactly put your finger on. Foundational, it's like the nuts and the bolts, the foundations, the ABCs, the one, two, threes. It's the simple steps of practical reality. Whereas Scorpio is not things that are foundational. In fact, it's quite occult. It's the occult or hidden dimensions of things behind the scenes, under the veil. Whereas the foundations are like on the ground for everybody to pick up easily and quickly. So Taurus is the foundational qualities of life. Scorpio is the occult dimensions of life. And then Taurus, we have this idea of stabilization. We want to stabilize, make things more solid, make things more locked in. Scorpio is working on the opposite of elimination. What do we need to weed out and get rid of? What are we trying to, it's also, death, killing, you got to kill that which is no longer serving. The same way Taurus is trying to stabilize that which is pleasurable, enjoyable, etc. So there's that opposite. Um, Thinking about their working, I have written and articulated that Taurus is the impetus to fortify what's known and appreciated by maintaining firm boundaries that guarantee a certainty of security. So again, it's wanting to really get a grasp on the world from a physical point, having boundaries that are going to make sure it keeps and retains that which it likes with a strong sense of ownership and security. On the other hand, for Scorpio, the impetus is to deep dive into the unknown, transcend limitations by merging with other sources and forces of power for greater change. So again, Scorpio is willing to go into the deep, dark, scary factors of the invisible or unknown that we're not sure about and the mystery of life, to go beyond what we already know or beyond those foundations, which often imply getting outside of our own comfort zone and that which we know and we value and is us, to invest in and investigate others, other sources, other people, other places, anything that's other, so that it can incorporate it for some kind of change to become bigger, greater than it is on its own. So Taurus is making itself bigger and more secure, and Scorpio is creating a transcendental transformation of change that is greater by virtue of including others and excluding that which is detrimental. So all of it's wrapped up in values, with self values and others' values, and how that dance operates. The other relationships, let's look at the neighbors. So since we have a cycle going around, one, two, three, those signs are each kind of like hands on a clock turning from one to another. And so Aries is right before Taurus, and with that cardinal fire, we would say that, and it's coming out of Pisces. So from that conclusive emptying of astral debris at the end of a total process, um, a fresh initiative to boldly pioneer into something new arises, propelling one to take bold action towards the satiation of a raw, instinctual desire born from a drive to invigorate a sense of independently unbridled identity. So Aries is bam, running out the gate with a burst of energy to go do and initiate new experiences. So after it's done that, bam, it's burst out like a rocket. It's done stuff. Then we start to move into Taurus. And from that Taurus zone in fixed Earth, from the burst of raw desires explored by initiating experiences to enact one identity, there becomes with Taurus a sense of what is and isn't one's taste. So you've done a lot in Aries. And so Taurus is then, yeah, I really like that. I want more. I want to accumulate more of that. Or something else like, yeah, I did that and it really wasn't my taste. I don't want to do that again. It didn't feed me. It's not anything I need. So it decides what it has a taste for and begins to settle towards accumulating and developing the resources required for sustaining those values and fortifying one's sensual enjoyments. So whatever it likes, it wants to make sure it's getting more of and keeping that and holding that. That's me. I own that. That's the idea of Taurus. As it moves forward, the next step is Gemini, the mutable air. And so, from securing a solid foundation of what one has acquired a definite taste for, a process of analytical dissection is navigated to learn all the diverse facets to the various components of what comprise the entailed appreciation, seeking to know all about it in a manner that can be articulated and communicated for extended learning. What that means is that basically after Taurus knows what it likes and is growing it and it's got plenty of it, well, then comes the learning aspect of Gemini that wants to say, okay, we've got this, we like this. What is this exactly? And so it's kind of the energy that cuts it in half and looks at both sides inside. It's going to find the all the parts and pieces of something. It's going to analyze how it's put together. It's going to dissect what makes it tick so that it can figure out what it is that is appreciated, how it works. So it's a sense of navigating and learning about what it is that was appreciated. And then another step in Gemini is again being able to talk about it and communicate it. Taurus in and of itself, like, doesn't need to know everything, it just wants to have it. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know I like it and I've got it and I enjoy it. And this is my thing. I like it. Gemini's got I want to know it all, and I want to talk. And so it's communicating all of the intricacies of what something is after it's done kind of some extensive learning. It's learning more about it and it's diversifying how it understands something. It's important to note that a sign has nothing in common with its neighbors. So, you can see cardinal, fire, fixed, earth, mutable air. None of the words repeated. So they're different elements, different modalities. The only thing that a sign does have in common is that it's a neighbor. So it sees it all the time and it's knowing like, hey, you just walked across the street from here, and pretty soon we're going to walk across the street to there. So it knows where it's been and where it's going, and so it's this process that's going on. And that's kind of a sense of familiarity by virtue of that proximity that it doesn't have with some other signs across the table, which we call a quincunx. This angle of a quincunx at 150 degrees are some awkward relationships at the table. Every sign talks to every sign, but there's something about these that are 150 degrees across the table that are really odd. And you'll notice that they don't have anything in common either. Taurus is fixed earth, Libra is cardinal air, and Sagittarius is mutable fire. So they don't have any of the same modality. They don't have any of the same element, but they also are not even close to each other. They're way over there on the other side. So they're not familiar. We don't know about them the same way we might know about our neighbors. So there's a quality that when a sign, something in Taurus is interacting with something in Sagittarius or something in Libra, it's kind of a seesaw. We're like, it's not a clear connection that's communicated easily or familiarly. And so those can kind of feel like a give and a take or just an unevenness to the situation. However, if in a chart somebody has a planet or point in Taurus that is at a quincunx with something in Sagittarius and something in Libra, when you have that, you have a little narrow triangle that's called a yod, which is often called the finger of God. And it shows up in a way where the point across, which in this case would be Taurus, acts as a release point or an apex for a foundational base that is created through a sextile 60-degree relationship between those other two signs across the table, who actually do have a lot in common. Or not a lot in common, but they are both the same duality. They're both yang. Libra, air, and Sagittarius, fire, are both yang elements. So they create a stable foundation or platform that then allows that Taurus energy to release in a particular way. So thinking about these three signs and their relationship, Taurus, again, self-sustainability. I've got it. I can do it on my own. I own the resources to make it happen. Personal values, that which I like, the development of those resources. And it views taking in as a sense of solidifying substantial fortitude. Tripping over my words because I'm so quick and lightning like with my tongue. Um, Solidifying substantial fortitude and enjoyment. So for Taurus to be winning, it wants to be making more solid the substance that it enjoys. That's winning, owning it, building it, et cetera, et cetera. Look at how different that is from Libra and Sagittarius. Libra is about cooperation. It is the key sign of others. So it wants to cooperate. It wants someone else at the table. Taurus is like, I'm okay to do it by myself. I like it. I'm enough. Diplomacy. Libra is about saying things in a way that's going to be palatable for all parties. It's playing fair. It's making good decisions. Uh, Taurus doesn't have to worry about that. If you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. So it's really about itself, very personal. It's not taking that diplomacy into factor. Libra is weighing out fairness. It's those scales of what's fair, and that can mean, and then the next word, beautification. I like how that goes with fairness because that sense of righteousness. How do we play well with others? And then what's going to be beautiful and symmetric and harmonious for all? Taurus doesn't really have to worry about that. If it's just doing what it likes and doing its own thing, that's not really so important how fair it is. And then beauty. Beauty is interestingly keyed in a little bit because both Taurus and Libra have Venus in common, which is a part of that beauty. But beauty for Libra is very much akin to the social realm of what others find pleasing and what's pleasing for both sides of an equation. Both sides of a party find it beautiful. For Taurus, it's like, I like it. And so you might not think it's pretty or you might not like the taste, but it's something I like. And it could be something excessive or extreme for Taurus, whereas for Libra, it's going to kind of err more towards a moderate middle. Libra finds taking in as a sense of interfacing with others for curating aesthetic harmony. So for Libra to be winning, it has to have someone else there. It has someone else that it gets to talk to and interact with to create beautiful things, to make things a more harmonious place. But it's about that harmony that includes the social sphere and other people coming together. Taurus doesn't have to have any of that. So they're a little bit awkward. What about Sagittarius? Well, as mutable fire, it's all about truth seeking. Sagittarius wants to know the truth. Taurus wants to know if it feels good, if it tastes good, if it sounds good. So, truth, like, what's that about? Like, the truth is in my body, it's what I feel. So it's not really looking out somewhere for the truth like Sagittarius does. Sagittarius is prone to go on traveling adventure. It wants to see the world. It wants to explore foreign places. But Taurus is like, I want to have what I like. I don't need to go somewhere else. It sounds alien. That sounds far away. Like what it wants is usually something it's already had. Taurus is Taurus doesn't like to experiment as much as some other signs. It wants to kind of keep what it knows is reliable and dependable. It already knows it tastes good and feels good, so it's not looking for an adventure out there. Sagittarius is expanding cultural immersion. So it wants to explore different cultures. And again, Taurus is not about different, it's about the same, steady, stable. So it's not looking to grow diversity, it's looking to grow what it already has and make it bigger. Meaningful enrichment is a Sagittarius thing. It's looking for meaning. It wants to find those qualities that enrich from some sense of like philosophy and meaningfulness. Taurus is such an earthy, just like it doesn't have to mean anything. It's just got to reliably taste good every time. It feels good every time. It doesn't need to go deeper into what it means in that sense. It's just, do I have it? If I have it, good. And can I get it again? Can I have more of it? Whereas Sagittarius is looking for the why. Why do I like it? And what is the quality that matters in it? Taurus is just like, I've had it. It was good. I want more of it. It's very straightforward. For Sagittarius to be winning, its form of taking in the world is exploring those foreign frontiers for a deeper understanding of inspired ideas. It loves to play with ideas and to expand them and see how they mean more and to broaden its reception of life and being more of a global, universal, galactic citizen in some way that is enriched through foreign cultures and going deeper. Taurus is quite fine on the surface of things. It's quite fine with the nuts and bolts, with the here and now. It's not looking to get off to somewhere else. None of that. So Taurus and Sagittarius don't exactly see things the same. However, and this is where you have your yacht. When you have these qualities of Libra and Sagittarius working together across the table, well, you have a knack for keeping things balanced and fair with other people, keeping things so that they're beautiful, keeping things so there's a harmony. So that's a nice quality in the pocket. And then with Sagittarius, you've got the ability to go far out, to explore things that are not here. So you're blasting off to new places. And with Libra, all of those new places and foreign cultures, we're juggling them diplomatically so that they stay fair. So we have fairness happening everywhere, further out in deeper ways. And so that expands our cultural citizenship. Our cultural citizenship of being a worldly person is far out in the world. It's far, it's broad, and it's beautiful. Everybody finds it to be fair and palatable and righteous and pleasing. So when we have pleasing, pleasant relationships with everybody else out there, far and wide from multiple walks of life, well, that really supports Taurus. Then Taurus can develop quite a lot. It has the full buffet at its disposal. So when we have those energies of Sagittarius and Libra giving us access to harmonious relationships with other people who are then more palatable for things that we enjoy, and we've got all sorts of far out foreign places and people that are also plugged into our network of familiarity, then we're able to develop and grow and accumulate that which we like with a lot of support. It has more support that we are anchored to further out, far out there. we've got other places that we're using and storehousing our energy, our resources for to amass stuff. So it really helps to refine the extent to which Taurus can still do its own thing, but Taurus then just has more options. It has further out things to enjoy, even though it might like the same one over and over. And it's going to be able to do what it wants to do while having good relations with other people. It's not rubbing other places the wrong way. It's not fighting or rubbing other people wrong or other cultures, other bigger collectives of people. It's kind of safe and steady in a more variable mix of otherworldly factors, other people factors. So there's a way that that sextile creates a platform and a foundation that really can help Taurus to excel in quite a magical way. That's how a yod works, and that's how it is a combo of those two energies with that one. But if you don't have the full yacht, if you just have Taurus talking to just Sagittarius or Taurus just talking to Libra, it's going to feel like a seesaw where like you get a turn, then I get a turn. And what are we doing? And you're not doing it my way. So it can have a bit of a toggle in another way. All right. Easy allies. So the easy allies are going to be the signs that are two doors down from Taurus on both sides. That's 60 degrees, a sextile relationship. What they have in common is they are both all yin. Water and earth are yin elements. So even though we have fixed earth, mutable water, and cardinal water, water and earth mix really easy. Okay, that you add a little water to the earth and it becomes more malleable. It's not dried out, it's wet clay that you can mold. And when you have um some earthy elements in the water, then the water is not as sterile or empty. It has minerals and nutrients, it has substance and value. So they mix together very well. So Taurus is that our grounded sensibilities that are in touch with matters of practicality for sustaining pleasure. It's favorable towards steady security, staying grounded, staying predictable, all of those things that are going to make sure I've got what I like. This world has got stuff that I want and I've got it. That's what Taurus is doing. Pisces, mutable water is the imaginative compassion that dreams towards mystic ideals of a transcendental nature. It's favorable towards an open infinity of possibility. Pisces is like the dream station. It's all the things that are just in the imagination. It's what we can imagine. It's that otherworldly, non-tangible, non-physical place. Well, that ends up being like a fertilizer, an infinite fertilizer capacity for our manifestations. Pisces provides all the wet, liquid dreams and ideals. Ooh, wouldn't that be nice? Can't you imagine it now? All of the things that Taurus is able to say, ooh, that's a great idea. Let's manifest it. Let's make it real. Pisces can live in the dreamland and have all these ideas that don't ever happen as it's happening in the invisible. It's in the imagination. It's in our dreams. But Taurus can work together with that energy to manifest it. So it gives it a lot of inspiration, a lot of invisible nature that it can then pull from. Cancer, on the other hand, is another water sign, is the home base of emotional comfort and familiarity for nurturing self with care. So it's what's familiar. It's what nourishes us. It's favorable towards safe containers of supportive influences while shielding from disruptive impressions. It's got the crab shell, it's got the eggshell. So it's our home and it wants to contain that which is good and is going to mother us and support us. And it wants to block out or hide and shield from anything that might hurt us. It's protective. It doesn't want to let anything in that's going to disrupt. That works great with Taurus. In fact, there's a lot of relationships out there that have a Taurus Cancer together component because those two signs work so well together. They both like steady, secure, stable. familiar at home. Um, Taurus is wanting it more from the physical side, having the money, having the stuff. Uh, Cancer wants to have the stable relationships and people that are safe and nurturing and familiar. But together, if you've got the emotional support and safety and the physical support and safety, they really make a safe, stable, keep it the same way, nice and cozy, familiar together. We can also think about Cancer as being like both these water signs are essentially the liquid emotional juice that lubes up the material world. So Taurus is like, I like it and I'm going to have it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to own it. I'm going to keep it. Well, Pisces is giving all of the dreams, all of the lubricant to the dreams of what you could have, what you could enjoy. You like this, imagine if you had that with it. So it's providing that inspiration of like how you can imagine more or imagine what you could do with it, or that factor that Taurus is like, ooh, yeah, I like that. That's juicy. I'm gonna make it. And then Cancer is the sense of like what's kind of close by, what's familiar. It's kind of like the relationships that are willing to support your values, the relationships that are comfortable and cozy and conducive to keeping things steady and safe. So we've got a more abstract, watery component that's kind of far out. And then you have a very close at home watery component of what's familiar and what's at hand, and both of those are feeding our physical manifestations of what we own. So they get along like easy allies. We've also got some stimulating challengers at the board. And those stimulating challengers that square off are Leo and Aquarius. Ding, 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 ding. This axis. They both make a square relationship with Taurus because they're all fixed. They're all holding on and set in their way, but they all have a different way. Taurus is fixed earth. It's coming at it from a very practical, ground-based material perspective. Leo is fixed fire. It's coming at it from a passionate, identity-based, um, special factor. And then Aquarius is fixed air. It's really locked into a certain ideology or a certain network or frame of mind. So they're all very fixed or stuck in their way from a different elemental perspective. So Taurus's fixed earth has a strong drive to hold on to tangible forms of sustainable security that present sensual pleasure and lasting security, which can be fortified by the self for mounding development. So I want to hold on to what I've got that I like, and I want to make sure that it keeps developing. That's what it wants to do. Well, Leo comes over and says, hey, I've got a strong drive too. We all have a strong drive to hold, but it wants to hold onto its special identity. I'm unique. I'm a shining star. That's what Leo's about. Sun rules that. We're all a sun. We're all a star. But it wants to hold on to its boldly expressive identity in a way that's fun and entertaining. It wants to be seen. It wants you to know its name. It wants to get attention. It wants to be entertaining in a way that other people like and are going to remember and see and notice. It wants to be applauded by others for its vivacious, lively showmanship and confident presentation. Taurus doesn't care if you see it or not, as long as it's got what it likes. But Leo wants to make sure that who it is held on to, that its identity is big and bold, it's out front, it's expressive, it's creative in a way that other people are going to light up from its light. So it's wanting to have more of that me, see me feature in the mix for Leo. Aquarius, fixed air up at the top, has a strong drive to hold onto collective ideals. It's concerned with the group, it's concerned with the whole, and it wants to promote greater holistic circuitry. It wants the whole network to plug in all line and all make sense and all have the same idea. We're all on the same page and one network, and we can circuit among it. So it's networking uniquely unusual perspectives because it understands that everybody's a little bit weird and wacky and different, but it wants everybody to be plugged in into one whole network together. So all of those different advantages and approaches are all plugged in toward a unified platform that's all about the community, the collective, and its communal elevation, progress, and advancement. It wants to make society and the group the big thing that we're holding on to. We want to keep making sure that everything different finds a place at the table and is part of the network circuitry so that it all keeps being one big group, one big team. Taurus doesn't really care so much if it's like with the team or not with the team, as long as it's getting and doing its own thing. It wants its own pleasure, its own sustained, fortified development. It wants its own self stuff. So again, it's a very self-related sign, and Aquarius is very much about the group and the collective. Well, then when we match it with Leo, again, they're both about the self, but Leo's got a factor that's more involved with others and wanting to be seen and appreciated and noticed, whereas Taurus doesn't care if it's noticed. It just wants it to be its own thing. So they can kind of square off with one another about each one's trying to have its way. And those are the square relationships at the table. Its besties are definitely going to be the other earth signs. Its earth buddies are Capricorn and Virgo, and they're going to have the most similar stuff in common. Again, earth in general, practical, stable, grounded, dependable, reserved, conservative, solid, and cool and dry. Keep it cool and dry. All the earth characters agree that's the best way to do things. So Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo get along like peas in a pod. Cardinal earth, fixed earth, mutable earth. So when we put it together, all of the earthy components are about practical things down on the ground. What's grounded, what's stable, what's solid. Cardinal brings in a sense of we need to take action. Fixed takes in a sense of we need to hold it together securely. And mutable makes it so that we need to learn more because things are going to shift and change along the way. So for practical action, Capricorn is the executive steps necessary to build or achieve something. It knows that you got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. You got to keep taking steps up the mountain if you're going to get to the top. So it's all about what are the practical things you got to do to get the task accomplished. How are we going to complete the goal? And it has to look at whatever the challenges are and how do we meet that? If we trip and we fall down, we got to stand up and we don't want to trip the same way again. So we're taking steps, we're learning from the challenges, and we're going to keep taking more steps and plodding forward until we get to the top. We get things done, we get things completed, we attain, we accomplish in Capricorn in the world because we keep taking worldly actions. We keep making practical steps happen. Capricorn. Taurus says, cool. Capricorn's got the action. I'm going to hold it together. So it is that which one finds a value that I've got it. It's valuable, y'all. It's worth something. I've got it. Don't worry. I'm holding on. I'm not going to let it go. And it's developed, it's accumulated, and we save it and hold it in reserve as a savings account so that it's dependable for our self-security and sustainability. So whatever is worth something, Taurus wraps its arms around and it keeps it safe. And every chance it gets, it adds to it. It's going to accumulate. It's going to have another little bit of it. So it's holding on to that security. Virgo is kind of like, I think about it like canning things at the end of a season. You got to sort it, you got to put it in a box, got to keep it later for winter. As the odds and ends to a product or process are explored, adjustments are made to improve the efficiency of how something works for its optimized utilization. Virgo wants to make things better. It's taking into account all the fine details of the material world, how things are, because it knows you have to work with how things are, but it really gets good at maneuvering and fitting the pieces into some best fit in a practical way so that whatever it is can be used in a better way at a better time for a better purpose. So it's toggling. and making minor adjustments and moving things around and organizing the concrete blocks of life so that it is continually getting better. And so it's learning. It learns what it's got and how it's put together. And then it thinks that there's another way to add it up. And then if there's another way to push it out. So it's making adjustments and refining the physical layer of things for efficiency. But all of them agree we've got to work with the 3D world. We're working with health. We're working with money. We're working with work. It's working with the nuts and bolts of reality in this experience. So that I think is all the characters around the table. And we're ready to look at for 2026 a little bit at the end of these. I'm looking at the season of Taurus that we are about to be in. And it looks like that will begin on April 19th around 9:40 p.m. We can see that the sun goes into Taurus and will be at 0 degrees. What is this season going to give us for our Taurus time? At the beginning, we notice that the sun is in a square to Pluto and is that's a challenging relationship that is starting with our sun there. So there's a sense of us and our central identity that really might have to square off and face collective pressure. That which we value, that which we're trying to hold on to, we might find some deep, dark, uh, dark, it's Pluto. We might find some deep pressure from others, other groups, the whole, the collective, to change or to adopt or to fit in or to get with the group or to do what the group says or to move with the group flow. So there's a pressure and a difference between what we value and what the group values. So that's a relationship at the beginning of the season that we might notice. Venus is conjunct Uranus and tightening. We can see right when the season starts, Venus is inching her way closer to Uranus. And that is a sense of really valuing and relating with things that are weird, wacky, unusual, different, spontaneous. So our taste in Taurus, Venus rules Taurus, and she's got a sense of her taste in the material. But the closer she gets to Uranus, the more she's likely to go off on a wild card direction and try something new, hang out with some new people, do things a new way. And so there can be a way that that which we value as we're developing our values with Venus getting close to Uranus, what we might value might seem weird, wacky, unusual, alien, exciting, sporadic, spontaneous, radical. It might have kind of a different quality with what we like, and that we might see that that can be some of the collective pressure, or against the collective pressure to reform, fit in, be part of the group. You got to believe or act or go as what the group is saying, even though the group and the collective is in the midst of some deep transformation with Pluto being there. But I could see some deep pressure from the collective psyche kind of pressurizing us at the beginning of the season to change how we are. And the irony is, with Venus getting so close to Uranus, we are changing our tastes. We are open to new, radical, unique, unusual, exotic things. Um, but it's somehow that we might all feel like the things that we're getting a new, unusual taste with still aren't satisfying the status quo. There's something where they want us to adopt or to fit into some other mold that we're not quite reforming to, because Taurus is that time period where we don't budge. We're developing us. We're holding on to us. And I don't talk about the moon much on this stuff because the moon moves so fast. So I'm not looking at moon degrees, but it's worth noting that right here around April 19th, since the moon will be on this spot pretty much, that looks to be a rather electric day. I would not be surprised if there are relationships or unusual characters or surprise interactions, new epiphanies, breakthroughs, ahas that happen related to other people in our life. And we might notice that other people are acting really weird and wacky and unusual. And it can sometimes be a power battle or a dynamic between our weird and wacky and unusual nature and desires and other people's weird, wacky nature. And they want us to conform to their weird. We want them to conform to our weird. We both think the other one should conform, but it's just part of the process. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not right, it's not wrong. It's just it takes it all getting in to fit in. The other thing that we see happening at the beginning, Mercury, Mars, and Saturn are all conjunct. Um, that's a hot pocket. We've heard a lot about the stellium that's in Aries, and since it's the beginning of Taurus, the sun is just leaving Aries. Aries is the war sign, and I know we got that happening out there in the collective world situation, and Mars and Saturn together is very militant, very hard pressed about doing stuff and making things happen in a way that could break a few eggs. It can be very destructive or volatile. It's like you've got this force of Mars that's go, 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 and Saturn is like stay, 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 and they're both working together. So we can make progress with things that don't really move very fast, but it can maybe break a few things along the way. Things have to get broke. So there's something about things that are like reaching a breaking point that could relate to with Mercury in the mix, information, conversations, negotiations. With Saturn in the mix, government structures, things that we're used to being the same way all the time. There's really some resistance to change, like the fighting resistant to change, but also a dynamic desire to change. But so it's really like it's hot and cold. It's stop and go. And when you have that much stop and go happening at the same time, it is not uncommon for something to break through, something to break out, something to break in. Um, but it also does suggest that things that haven't moved do move, but they usually move after something has kind of like burst or something. So that's in that mix at the beginning of the season. We're going to look week by week what's changing. Sun square Pluto a week later is perfected. So that pressure we have from the collective to like get on the bus, Gus, and go with the team versus what is our own thing, that pressure is going to feel tighter. We see Venus conjunct Uranus perfected. So Venus and I mean, again, we're really looking into the new and unusual. And since Venus is now no longer in Taurus but in Gemini, we are going to be less about holding on to what we like, and we might be like, hey, I tried something new and exotic, and now I want to do lots of new things. With Venus and Gemini, that is the idea of trying lots of new things. I'm gonna spread out and diversify. And I've been doing the same thing forever, but now Venus is ready to do all sorts of different things. And she is trine with Pluto, which suggests that as we might still be having a clash between what we value and what the collective wants, other people, the weird, wacky, unusual people that we let in, or the weird, unusual experiences that we decided to try, there's a sense that we might be more willing to explore that territory with others, like participating with a group or going with somebody to somewhere new or going with somebody new to somewhere different or going somewhere different with someone familiar, but it's a new place. So it's that idea of being open to things that are unusual and merging or joining forces or kind of deepening the involvement with the collective, with the group, with others of an unusual nature, while we're still wrestling and like trying to say, like, what's in it for us? What do we want to develop? What do we really value? What do we care about? While we're resisting that square Pluto pressure to conform or change. But we are really open to like the other people in this unusualness and how to share those experiences. We also see here now that Mercury and Mars are starting to square Jupiter, and Saturn too barely. That's, he's not quite there yet. We're not in that square. But Mercury and Mars squaring Jupiter is like we're ready to take some action and learn some new things. So, by virtue of all of these new relationships, new characters, new experiences that we're opening the door from while we consider what it is we want, what we value, what we want to own, Mercury is really open to those foreign conversations, open to talking about new things, open to doing new things and doing a lot. We have a lot of gusto with Mars square Jupiter, and a lot of like planning and working towards the future. That Jupiter brings in our future aim and our beliefs and our meaning, and we're really, really ready to hash it out, to think about it, to take action about it. The fact that Mercury and Mars are so close together just makes our mind and conversations just very active. It is not uncommon with Mercury and Mars together to have arguments or debates or a little bit of a clash about things. But at the same time, with Jupiter there, it's for a sense of expansion. So we might be able to have hard arguments about philosophical things while we hash out what matters. Why do you want us to conform? Well, why do you want to do something different? Well, why do you want to do the same thing? So we're really interacting with the different characters, having these big, bold conversations and interactions to see where it's leading to next, a little bit further out in space and time. Mercury is finally separating from Mars, so this kind of excitement and energy to those conversations being so worked up is starting to relax. The more that Mercury gets some separation from Mars, it won't be so charged up all the time. Moving into the third week, we can see Sun entering its sextile with Jupiter, which is a supportive glow where that which we are owning and developing, we are also kind of getting a little bit of relief and expansion from Jupiter in a sense of opening up more and opening in more. Since it's in Cancer, we're opening into ourselves and how that which we value and sustain in a practical sense can work with that which is growing in an emotional self-care way on our inner invisible side. So that is also happening as that square from Pluto ends, so that we are kind of out of the zone of the pressure to conform or rebel against the collective. And so the sun is really starting to feel more comfortable in itself now. Like, okay, I can really make it about me. I've heard from the group what they want me to think or not think, and I've had to confront the submit or conform or rebel and resist. And now I understand a little bit clearer what's really going to feed and water me, is what that sextile is doing. At the same time, Venus is starting to sextile Saturn. So our relationships and our values and our conversations from all of these unique other places is starting to feel like it's kind of coming to a solid point. It's starting to build something. Those values that we've allowed to diversify and disseminate are now finding a way to anchor into something that's going to stand the test of time, something that's going to stand for practical action, which, Saturn's a rock solid planet in its archetype, which is good with Taurus. So even though Venus is in Gemini and into the variety and diversity, that variety and diversity is working tandem with a sense of holding things together for a meaningful achievement. That is a good marker for our pleasure standing the test of time, the values mattering in the long run. Mars is now strongly squaring Jupiter, which is just a lot of energy. A square relationship has the nature of Mars in itself. So it is like a go, go, go time. It might be a time that we're doing a lot related to how we want to grow on the inside. All of the Jupiter Cancer themes of long range, long-term growth and vision related to our inner self, our home, our family, our familiarity, our comfort. Mars is really ready to take action for ourselves in a very dynamic way. And Mercury has crossed into Taurus at this time, and it's crossed over Chiron. When Mercury crosses over Chiron, within the scope between the second week and the third week of Taurus, There's that idea of healing conversations or our mind kind of noticing places that maybe we were too abrupt with our rebellion and or not thinking enough for ourselves or enough about others. So there's a healing moment that has happened as Mercury went over Chiron, that's now putting our mind in that same square. So even though we might be more sure in ourselves about what we're wanting and how to support ourselves, we're still having to run a lot of ideas about the collective through the collective and figure out how much of our thoughts is going to be influenced by the collective, or what kind of influence we're trying to make on the collective with our mind, with our intellectual apparatus. So again, it's that same conundrum like that we see earlier with Sun square Pluto happening with Mercury is uh really having us quest or question deeper into what we think we know and what we're learning and who we're learning from and who we're not, who we choose to listen to, who we're trying to convince and control with our thoughts, or who we're letting convince or control us with our thoughts. So we have that intellectual wrestling match happening by that square. Fourth week, some things are the same, but we can see that Sun and Mercury are getting close to their conjunction. And when we get to that precise date, that will be a cazimi. I may have put that on the next slide. We'll see in a minute. But the Sun and Mercury together, it can kind of, at this close point considered combust, where like we might be a little too egotistical or too self-righteous about what we think we know, or too into ourselves, and not really seeing the whole picture for a little bit of time where things are too close to the sun. They get burned up a little bit by that ego. But they're both sextile to Jupiter. So our mind, after it's done that plutonic wrestling match, like we're again from hashing out all the collective pressures symbolized by Aquarius and Pluto's placement there, we're getting more deeply stabilized in a steady sense of who we are and what is truly nurturing us with our long range vision via Jupiter in Cancer. Mars is still square Jupiter, and that means that the action is still hot. The action is still happening. We are still not, taking a rest. We are go, go, go. Mars, in fact, rules Aries, and so that planet being there is already got a go, go, go factor. But we're doing a lot probably for ourselves, for our home, for our family, for what matters within. And sure enough, Mercury conjunct Sun, that cazimi is actually on the 14th, even though this picture is May 17th. Just for a fun fact for everybody, May 14th is the cazimi where Mercury will be right in the heart of the Sun. And on that day, that's the day when Mercury and the Sun are perfectly together. You get a royal Mercury that has an aha, which is usually like some kind of announcement, a message, a proclamation, a thought, an idea that just has a royal, regal sense of importance. It gives the mercurial archetype a sense of being bathed in the golden light of the sun that gives it importance. So, you can be mindful of perhaps things that you say or hear or messages received or things that you learn that seem extremely pronounced with preferment that day. Mercury is also conjunct Uranus at this little window. And so that in and of itself is lighting Mercury up for something new and different. So right after that cazimi, we're like, I've gotten this message or something very pivotal and bright at that time on the 14th. By the 17th, Mercury is just electrified. It's the lower octave of the mind and the higher octave of the mind. And so there is an electric quality of aha, of something new that we think, something outside the box, some grand idea that is radical, that is favor for spontaneous change, that is also in tune with something deep. It's almost like a deep collective realization. It's something that we might notice about the collective, notice or learn about others. And it's also tied in with Neptune just because of how those outer planets are going to be forming their little configuration for quite a few years like that. That pulls in Neptune too, that there's something maybe mystical, transcendental, and easy, and just based in the imagination, maybe even that comes through with Mercury. So Mercury has a very royal, like open to new and unusual, open to deep, open to mystic, letting things flow. It's really like Mercury gets a royal sense of importance, and then it's like totally plugged in to all these power players. So something wild and wonderful around this time period for our mercurial function. Sun is also starting to approach its trine with Pluto and is still sextile Jupiter. So it's like all of those pressures that were square from Pluto, where we were like, the collective is trying to make us reform, and the whole submit or rebel part of the equation has been in the mix. Here, as we get to the end of Taurus season, it's like we are learning something about ourselves and we're feeling more confident and solid, stable in ourselves so that we are able to join forces and merge with the collective tides in a new way. Instead of like kind of having that square where we're pushing against each other after the stage of development in Taurus has happened as it inches towards Gemini, there's like a more receptive attunement to those collective pressures. Something about how we now feel like we're able and ready to plug into the collective is more supported. We also see that Venus is sextile Mars and Chiron, which are conjunct. This is the sense, this is a time like, and part of the reason we might be willing to entertain the collective a little bit more is that we have been pushing really hard with our Mars over this month as it's been square Jupiter. But when it gets to Chiron, it's almost like maybe we push too hard, and there's something we have to notice in ourselves about is there a way that we take action that really step on someone else's toes combatively? Or did we step on our own toes inadvertently? But there's a healing and a wounding quality that has to be confronted when things are in relationship with Chiron. So something about healing our passion and our charge. We're noticing how our passion and our charge can be confrontational or combative in some way. But at this time, as we are dealing with that wound, Venus being sextile means we're getting a lot of support from others, a lot of support from that loving nature, that harmony, that pleasure, that ability to see the balance. And so it's like that, whatever we might have had from all these self-referential archetypes saying, like, it's about me doing stuff and I got to take action and I got to hold it together. Venus is like, yeah, these other characters or other people or these values related to Gemini, things like diversity and new information, are really supporting you. So that if you were doing things over and over the same way, or you were just kind of going without looking both in both ways, there's something about looking both ways or looking at a new way that is kind of adding some balm to that situation to help soothe it. However, Venus is also starting to square Neptune, which can put on a little bit of the rose-colored glasses, which can put on a little bit of the over-idealized romanticism. So while other people are going to maybe perhaps provide that they're there, bless your heart support, there might be a little bit of a sense that the other people are overly idealized or someone. They're not seeing things clearly. They might be seeing things from the glass half full perspective when really maybe it's like, three-quarters of the way empty or something to that nature, that there's something overly romantic about that is kind and sweet, but perhaps not super practical. But perhaps again, we're starting to get near the end of Taurus, so that idea of it making it all about us, making it all about our position and our values. We really have been tuning in with Venus and Gemini over this road to others' ideas and opinions, others' values, and a diversity of values so that as we notice that we've tripped over ourself in some way with Mars on Chiron. Other people coming in can seem like a very sweet antidote, but it could be like too much refined sugar. So we still need to make sure we're looking for the red flags and not looking through rose-colored glasses too much. As this season comes to the end, we see that that will happen on May 20th at 8:30. As at that time, the sun is at 29:59, just finishing. And as it finishes Taurus, it is going to get next to Uranus, and Mercury is still hanging out there some too. So we are super ready to try something new. We've spent a season developing ourselves, wrestling with pressures to change when we didn't want to, and not budging when we were feeling forced to. But at this point, by the end of the season, we're ready. We noticed that we did it all our way and we tried to make it all happen and build the house entirely ourselves or whatever the motif might be. And we are now ready to try a new dance, open up for new information, something unique, something way outside the box, something foreign, exotic, different. That's what Sun getting with Uranus is doing. And it is trining Pluto and sextile Neptune, which at that point is giving us a green light to, whoa, I was way too enmeshed in myself and wouldn't budge in some respect. Now I'm really flowing in with the idea of merging with others and opening to something transcendental, opening to something that's way bigger than the self. Venus is still square to Neptune and is starting to square Saturn. So while we are open to new information and such, we are there is a lot of rose-colored glasses. And there's the idea that there are some relationships that could become more difficult, especially if that Mars with Chiron has estranged anyone or caused any confrontations or broken anything that has put us in a more fragile position. There's the idea that other people we could idealize as saviors, or that we could idealize others as victims we need to save. And it could be making things a little bit of a more of a hardship in relationships at this time. There's a testing ground between both what's real and what's fantasy in relationships, and as well as whether things are worth the hard work or if it's something that needs to just cut ties. So there's a lot of questioning about these other relationships, and are they the soft, sweet balm we thought, or are they a distraction that really flies in the face of what's worthwhile? We're really going to be still with our solar nature, exploring new things related to the group and the collective and ideas. And so people that are seeming like they were going to help, but they really were just trying to like stop from drowning themselves. We might start to notice that and have to question what is a good relationship or something that's an anchor holding things down. So, and that can also be in respect to not just relationships, but our own values. What values do we have that we were feeling a little too overly idealistic about, or too rigid or too strict about? Where do we really need to get real about things and either exert discipline to change things or let things go that aren't working? Mercury is strongly trining Pluto, so our mind is super in tune with some deep diving investigations and really pondering this. The mind is working very well at this time. It's in its home sign, it's near Uranus, which gives it electric new thoughts. It's trine Pluto, which deepen things and gives it that investigative quality. So our mind is really here to look both ways and collaborate towards getting to the bottom of things. And here we see that Mars is changing signs to Taurus. So as the sun leaves Taurus, Mars comes into Taurus, but it is leaving its Chiron conjunction and it is leaving its Jupiter square. So it's like all of the go, go, go energy of Mars, like fight, 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 the fight might be about done at that point. And it's like, oops, I've caused a wound, or I've wounded myself, or I've wounded someone else that I really didn't want to. And so that whole fighting, go forward nature of Mars as it goes into Aries is like, goes into Taurus, is very much like, I'm ready to put my charge and my force into holding things steady. we went into change, 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 go, 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 all for myself. But now I really need to put okay, what can I hold on to? Because now everything's changing. Now the sun's getting ready to go into Gemini, and we got the change station diversifying. So Mars is like, all right, everything's changing. We need to hold on to that which matters, hold on to that which is of value. And so it's really a toggle. It's like, we want to change. Oop, nope, now we want it all to stay the same. So there is a push with Mars and Taurus now to kind of let's hold on to what we can still. What can we still keep saved? What can we still keep ownership of? Because there's a lot of energy about change, 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 fast change, radical change, unusual change coming at this time period in the story of the year. So Mars is like ready to like it was fighting for change and fighting for action, and now it's fighting to kind of keep things together. But it's also beginning a square to Pluto. It's still sextile to Venus, so there's still some support between us and others and our values, so the relational support. But we'll talk more about this in Gemini because as that Mars square Pluto perfects, that's another battle we've got of sorts. It's almost like the struggle to hold on is going to be between, gosh, like us holding on to what we want and fighting against what the collective might be trying to hold on to, or fighting against the collective pressure to change while we're then trying to put our effort into stabilizing. Either which way, a Mars square Pluto is one of the more volatile aspects in a chart. So at this time in the year, there does look to be a strong struggle. And I said the war is over in a metaphorical sense, but I mean, after Mars crosses over Chiron, it's almost like a wound happened and we're ready to heal. But here at the beginning of that upstage that's coming ahead, there's something fierce that is still wanting to fight it out at the beginning of that between our inner nature and what we want to stabilize and the collective pressures for some kind of exotic change. So we will see how that all happens in real time as Taurus season is right around the corner. So, as we are now wound down to the end of our exploration of Taurus, if there are any questions or comments for discussion, I invite those at this time. So, I think I got one buddy out there, Dexter. I don't know if you had anything that you were curious about, but if you do have any questions, you can holler, and if you don't, you can just not.
I
And
didn't have any questions per se, but I really enjoyed the presentation.
awesome,
Learning more
man.
by the day.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I guess I will wrap this up. And if anybody has any questions after they've seen this, once the recording is posted, feel free to drop it in the comment or get in touch, and it can be explored further to whatever degree somebody wants to fly that kite. So thanks for tuning in for Taurus, everybody. Have a great rest of the season.